Good afternoon. It's Justin Knipper. I'm from Fight Game Media. I'm an editor on the website. We have Andy Marshall here with us. He's a writer on fightgamemedia.com. He's also co-host of on the Fight Game Media Network on Patreon. Break It Down with Kayla Cash. Andy, what's going on?
Hey, Justin. Glad to be here. Shout out to Keela. I hope she listens. But yeah, I'll be linking up with her for Takeover, or the next one that we're going to be doing is the next Takeover coming up, that In Your House, which ironically ties back to one of the things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little later. Is that this month?
Yes, it is. I believe it's later this month. I may be wrong, though.
Backlash just happened.
Yeah, I mean, and Takeover, it's kind of, they also just had a really big show with a really big match. So we could be a little bit out from In Your House now that I think about it. But
well, okay, let's talk about our first topic. We'll get to that later because we've got some WWE stuff to talk about. But first, I want to talk about Will Ospreay. This came out of nowhere. Will Ospreay is no longer the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. The new title that they just created, debuted, not a month or two ago?
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I think it's kind of a worst case scenario for what that could have happened with a new championship, because I think they really had a lot of grand plans for him, and it's now, what are they going to do in the meantime? Just unreal that they'd lose their top guy like this just so quickly into this run.
Yeah, they're citing a neck injury. The last match he had was, I don't know if you caught this one, Andy, but it was the Shingo Takagi match that was given 6 stars in the Wrestling Observer newsletter a few weeks ago, and it earned all 6 of them because it was just an unreal match. And they're citing neck injury. So this news just dropped yesterday, so there's not much else to speak on. There's lots of hearsay, but there's no reason to talk about that here because I'm sure news will come out soon, because Wrestle Grand Slam is coming up in New Japan. They're actually doing shows this weekend. Road to Wrestle Grand Slam starts this weekend. But yeah, so I guess we could just think about or talk about, what do they do? Where do they go now with this World Heavyweight Championship scene? Does it go to Okada directly? Should Shingo Takagi be factored into this? Where is Kota Ibushi in the equation?
Yeah, you'd got to think that whatever program they were having saved for Okada and Ospreay, do you think they would just jump forward? They seem so ready to stick to their time frame and just have other guys fill in, or at least have someone else kind of take that spot. So I kind of think that, I don't know, maybe tournament. I don't know, maybe make the winner of the G1 could possibly be. I don't know if they would go that long with a vacated title. If there's any history to a title being vacated that long, but I would expect them to have someone as champion sooner than that.
Yeah, I figure that you can't have a title vacated for longer than it's been around in existence.
That's true.
It's not a written rule, but I'm gonna go with that one. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see where it'll go creatively.
The emergency plans, the emergency things are the fun ones. That's like where people are saying Tomohiro Ishii, or, I thought Hiroki Goto, or I've been championing Zack Sabre Jr. all day in Slack. So these emergency possibilities are the fun ones too, because things are wide open. I've seen people talking about Bryan Danielson. He's between contracts and being teased by Impact Wrestling. So it's just, those are the fun possibilities. As much as I like Okada, it would be very anticlimactic, I feel like, to just kind of fast forward to his part with that title. So I would like a contingency plan. I'd like to see someone kind of get a chance here.
Since they haven't really telegraphed anything, and because of not only what's going on within the company, but in the country with coronavirus, Japan's hitting the 4th wave of, maybe this is the worst it's been for Japan right now. And in Asia, it's not quite, we know what's going on in India. It's not so hot right there, and it's carrying over to Japan. And I don't know how that will factor into creative plans going forward, because how can you put something together when you don't really know, when Gedo and Jado, they don't know exactly what the future is going to hold, who's going to be here, who won't be here, which venues can we use, or how many people can come. There's a lot of outside variables that you can calculate, but you just have to wait and see what happens. There's a lot of that. So I guess we have to wait and see what happens at the initial shows this weekend. They did announce this morning. I did see that the Road to Wrestle Grand Slam shows were announced. Yeah, it's just the big build to the Yokohama show. So I don't know. And that's right. B. Priestley, who was Will Ospreay's girlfriend, she recently left too. And the word is that she's headed to NXT UK. So I don't know how that factors into the story, but as far as she goes, she's out of Japan and probably headed somewhere else recently. And speaking of NXT UK, Andy, do you ever keep up with this show, NXT UK?
I am really have only ever watched their big takeover shows, which have been great, but I just with the amount of wrestling, especially the amount that WWE puts out, unless something is highly recommended, like the Walter and Ilya Dragunov match, that's something you should seek out, especially in the pandemic era of wrestling. But beyond that, not really.
I'm kind of the same way, but I've watched it, a little more, and I want to watch it a lot, but I just, like you said, there's just so much going on. But I wanted to mention that I heard from our buddy John LaRocca, Fight Game Media. He was raving about the A-Kid Tyler Bate match from the episode this week. I think it was part of the Heritage Cup tournament they do with the English rounds, if I'm wrong. Whew. But yeah, so there's that. So let's check out NXT UK sometime. And if you ever covered on Break It Down, I will be tuning in.
Wow, that would be a very special episode. I would do the entire thing in Irish accent.
Can we get a little of that for now?
No,
Okay, we'll save that for a special Sheamus moment.
That's right. That's right.
Actually, speaking of WWE, no more Velveteen Dream with WWE. After lingering around for a couple months after some pretty not interesting stories about him, but things that, when there's smoke, there's fire. How do you interpret all this, Andy? Like, this is, because to put it into context, the stuff that we're talking about, how can we generally call it? Because illicit behavior.
Sordid rumors, I guess. I don't know anything's ever really been confirmed. There is a lot of hearsay. All I know is that it was going to be really hard to promote Velveteen Dream, aka Patrick Clark, in an American wrestling ring again, without any more information coming to light or people learning more about what was going on there. I really believe that, and you could see WWE did not really seem to want to give up on the guy. It's almost a year ago, because the last time we saw him was in, or at least I believe right before things broke, was the In Your House match, where I think a lot of people were even questioning whether or not they would go forward with the build of that, which they ultimately did. But
it was about a year ago, like May or June.
Yeah, just about. And
yeah,
when I first saw this, I thought it was kind of a news dump. I know that WWE did release a lot of people the day prior, but not really anyone to the level of Velveteen Dream. He was definitely the headliner beyond, Drake Wirtz. But this felt like they saw, we were talking earlier about how jam-packed the next issue of The Observer is going to be, just because of how many things are going on here. And there's something to that. I think, WWE in their channels probably, could have known something about Ospreay happening, seeing a lot of other things along with these. It felt like a real news dump to me, just like a lot of things are going on, and we're also going to get rid of Velveteen Dream here.
I just found it strange that it was a part of this, what we call like the speaking out movement from last year, which was, I guess generally it was a flood of stories coming out from the wrestling industry about all different kinds and different levels of sexual misconduct and that's a loose term because there's all sorts of different things that were coming out. And Velveteen Dream was one of the bigger names in that, and somehow he stuck around. And I don't know what happened. I'm just interested to why did it take a year, even though we
Yeah,
haven't really seen him on television
and
since then.
and WWE would speak on the matter. Specifically, Triple H, I believe, was asked a few times directly about it, and he always indicated that they had performed their own investigation and that they didn't see any reason to really act on it at this time. You know, we don't know what changed. We don't know if they were just really hoping to wait for it. I saw something about him possibly being set up to coach at the Performance Center, and that's where people had another issue. And this could be a sign that they just understood there is nothing else we can do with this guy. Where do we put him now if we can't? Because like I said, you can't put him on TV. People are gonna, people are already kind of very unsettled about his return and heel run, where he fought. I believe the last time we saw him was a loss to Kushida on NXT television. So that was really strange and kind of uncomfortable to see, especially having him lean into this vicious heel character as if to almost kind of sneer at the things that he had been accused of, because it all just seems so strange. And then he disappeared and now he's gone. So I really don't know what the future holds for him, but I really don't see him popping up anywhere, or really, not, like I said, not until we know more. If for some reason a lot more were to come to light and he were somehow exonerated, things might be different. But the fact that he is no longer with the company and they kind of know all that, I think, is maybe also to suggest, yeah, we kind of understand where everyone's coming from. This is probably for the best.
I wanted to ask you about, because when you brought up that WWE claim, they said publicly they conducted their own investigation. And I hear that, I mean, it's an excuse, but it's also, it's a reason for, something happens within a company that's outside the boundaries of, the programming. It's something in real life. And something, I think of like the ROH thing from a few years ago in Portland, where ROH conducted it. They say they conducted an investigation and they decided that nothing, this is what we decided. I wanted to just ask, like, you can use that excuse for anything. If you're a company,
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean anything at all.
But why does it? We just kind of accept it.
Let's look at this away. Like a best case scenario would be that they hired a private investigator, I guess, and or some sort of independent arbiter to look into this, and they gave him the opinion of, yeah, maybe it's pretty dodgy, but he's fine. I would find that hard to believe. I would imagine they'd come back and say, yeah, here's why you probably should, fire this guy, and what could come to light. I think it was all, a cost benefit analysis for WWE. Obviously, they're a publicly traded company, but I think at some point, just to pay him to do what exactly? If you can't be a coach, you can't be on television. Well, you're a wrestler, so that's pretty much it for you here.
Do you think pro wrestling companies owe fans more of an explanation when these sorts of things happen? Because they do happen a lot more. Not that they happen more often. It's just because of the nature of the way the world is. These stories just fly out, and sometimes they fly out in droves, like they did last year. So, generally, I mean, it's kind of a loaded question because you can go so many ways. But do you think that's an acceptable, like, private investigations? Can companies do that? Is that okay? Or do we need more as fans? As a fan, do you want more of a professional and non-BS explanation?
Well, I mean, in WWE's case, like I said, as a privately traded company, they had to really look at the bottom line. And I'm sure that was probably more what their actual investigation was okay, if we cut him now, he could, be exonerated or something and go to All Elite Wrestling, where he spends the next 15 years. He's pretty young still too, which I think is why so many people were so disappointed. I know I certainly was. I don't know if I think if they found something untoward, especially with the degree of the allegations. I won't get into anything specific, but if you are familiar, it's not great, and you would not really want a guy like that sticking around. You would hope they would report that to the authorities and that it would be properly handled, and we would probably see the aftermath of that. You would hate to think they were covering up something like that. So, but I also think you're not going to find anything you're not looking for. So like we said, the investigation, doesn't really mean much. It could be just they looked into what it would cost to keep him, what it would cost to lose him. And, we investigated all right, and we're going to keep him.
I'm trying to imagine that if you were in a retail store and you wanted to return an item and somebody just said, well, we did an investigation and we decided that actually you can't return this. So you're out of luck.
Well, I'm looking at more as like I work in a retail store and I'm accused of sexual misconduct in some manner, and people are picketing out front and telling them to fire me from Sears. Like,
I went lighter. I went for a light analogy, but I mean, you placed the hammer on the table.
Yeah,
that's right.
That would strike me as odd, I guess, but
and especially the coaching thing. The coaching thing is where you think do the people? I don't know. I just feel like of all the positions that you could fill at your company, why would you choose someone who has been accused publicly of inappropriately speaking with student age level kids, I guess. But what I that's now I feel like it's too vague, and I'm not. It's what it is. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't have an answer. I just question it, and I find it weird that not more people ask about that sort of thing. But whatever, he's gone.
I mean, without criminal charges, this was pretty much, I guess, the worst thing that could happen to him. And I think, a lot of people ultimately jump to, what's the worst we could do? Like, okay, well, he shouldn't be, on the WWE roster, as the layperson would think, making millions wrestling for WWE. And, I'm sure he was paid well, but I doubt it was that much. But people don't care. I think this is more than enough for some people to kind of move forward and just say, "Oh yeah, they did something. It was what we wanted." And that's the thing, though. I don't think he'll be resuscitated in any way. I don't know if he could really show up in ROH and work a program for the TV title anytime soon. I think he's toxic, and it's if he's not gonna, he's gonna go to work in an office building or something. It's like that right now for him. Maybe he's a personal trainer. I don't know. But yeah, when your name's dragged through the mud like that, it's kind of tough to stay publicly employed. I would imagine we wouldn't expect the same from like politicians, but unfortunately in this country, doesn't always seem to be the case. I think Matt Gatz is still.
Yes, very good. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Very good. Yeah, we're having fun here. Andy, what's your social media handle?
Check me out on Twitter at @hard_seltzer.
And I am on Twitter at Justin M. Knipper. We'll see you next time.
Later, Gator.